Join Carol Davies on Global Voice Radio, the host of Only the Best for You. Be a change maker and unlock the secret to your best life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast, Only the Best for You, here on Global Voice Radio. My name is Carol Davies of the Passion Motivator Coaching Company. I'm so pleased each week to share with you the best information and speakers about how you can be a change maker to make the world and yourself the best you can be. Today I'm reporting to you on a topic that has long intrigued me. How can we set ourselves up for success if we are introverts? What actions do introverts need to take in a world geared to extroverts? Do introverts need to change and adapt themselves, or is there a strategy they can find to be themselves and still be a success on their own terms? Our program today is part 2 about how to be a happily successful introvert. What I'm going to concentrate on today is about, as an introvert, what you can do in your career. It's very important that, as an introvert, to survive in the corporate world, it sometimes can be nothing short of miraculous. I'm an introvert myself, so let's be honest. The introvert is not always celebrated in the corporate world. We're often viewed as closed, shy, and awkward, and the introvert can be overlooked for promotions in favor of their more visible colleagues. The corporate world and the office environment can unfortunately be a very harsh environment for an introvert. Now, this may surprise you. Introverts can be wonderful innovators and leaders. There was a very interesting article by Jennifer B. Conweiler, who is the author of The Introverted Leader, and she reported that 40% of executives consider themselves to be introverted. Now, that's a pretty strong representation, considering introverts only make up approximately 25 to 30% of our population at large. Clearly, introverted leaders must be doing something right. So what is their secret to success? A recent report looked closely at 5 highly successful introverted leaders, seeking lessons and actionable advice that you can implement today. The report looked at Warren Buffett, J.K. Rowling, the noted author, Steve Wozniak, Barack Obama, and Bill Gates. Now, these are all world-renowned leaders and well known in the world. So there were 5 pieces of advice that Ms. Conweiler derived from this study. One was to develop your public speaking skills. The next is focus on meaningful work to power through tough times. Next was work with a partner who balances your business weaknesses. The next was schedule some quiet time so that you can recharge every day. And strengthen your networking skills. Now, the 5 pieces of advice that I just mentioned are not unique to introverts, but introverts tend to need a little bit of time away and a period usually of calm for self-reflection or just getting things together, where sometimes extroverts go charging out in the world and everything gets done seemingly effortlessly. Introverts seem to take their own time to map out a plan, figure out what to do. And both types of people are great in the work world. And this is not to say that you're either an introvert or an extrovert. You're probably somewhere in the middle. So in addition to being introvert leaders, the corporate world is also home to many introverts in positions that they love. They may not be leading, but they could be managing, or they're working in a job that they really, really like, and they're getting the most out of their work life. Now, this is where I suggest you aim for. So you can have 2 steps that will have you determine a clear path for yourself in your working career. So try to get precise answers to these questions. What does it take to satisfy me? What do I want to accomplish in my life? What do I want to be? And I suggest take some time, think about these, and write down the answers. You may be surprised at what you find. And then, when you have the answer to these questions, visualize yourself in your work. Visualize yourself in your home. Visualize yourself in your social setting. What do they look like? How do they feel? How do they make you feel? With visualization, it's really a good idea to try to be as precise and clear as possible. And another interesting technique you can use at work is to use affirmations. They are a form of positive self-talk. Affirmations can come in handy to remind us of things we might already know but forget in moments of insecurity. They can help us hold our ground when others may be trying to force their values on us or get us to do something in a way that's not comfortable. And the affirmation can give us that last little push we may need to verbalize and assert ourselves and say, this is it, enough's enough. One of the best ways to combat negativity at work is to use positive affirmations. These are simple statements that describe a goal or a truth that you want to embed in your brain. They can be self-focused, such as no more 0 days, or outward focused. I appreciate my job and the people I work with. And when repeated, they can adjust your subconscious mind to think more positively. Though the idea of self-talk is uncomfortable for some people, with practice, positive affirmations can become a helpful and freeing habit. Here are a few ways to use them at work. 1, affirm yourself. Probably the most common types of affirmations are those we use to affirm our value of ourselves. A string of bad days, mistakes, or decisions that didn't pan out can cause us to question our capabilities and fumble on tasks that we would normally do with ease. Affirmations of truth, such as, I am reliable, responsible, and respected, can be helpful in times of doubt, as well as affirmation of goals. I'm excited about today. It's going to be productive and fulfilling. If you use affirmations like these each day, then it's going to make your work day and your projects go that much more easily and enjoyably. And affirmations don't have to be spoken out loud, but they do need to be repeated to gain the effect. If you're not a fan of talking to yourself in a mirror, choose an affirmation that resonates with you and write it down. Place it somewhere where you'll see it every day, maybe in front of your computer. And think about it when you're feeling overwhelmed or undervalued. The next one is affirm your job. Even the most productive among us have hit slumps. when we don't feel like doing anything but organizing our email box and scheduling meetings. These downtimes can be because of risks that make us hesitant to move forward, issues we don't want to tackle, or possibly sheer boredom. No matter what the cause, positive affirmations about our jobs and the way we do them can help us break out of the doldrums. The next time you're feeling unproductive or are dreading starting a task, take out a notebook and write down the thing you're dreading and why. For example, you could write, I don't know what to include in this presentation, and I'm afraid I'll look inept. Then create an affirmation that counters the negative feeling, such as, I have a great and challenging job, and I am ready to learn today. Or, I am excited to complete this presentation today. Write the affirmation over and over again until you feel more energized to complete the task at hand. Or if you don't want to write it, just read it over and over again and let the feelings sink firmly within you. And then the third thing you can do is to affirm the people around you. Encouraging the people you work with can have a powerful impact on their perspectives, especially if you're a leader. When everyone on the team is putting their best foot forward because they're confident that they can, we can see incredible results. Leaders could be advised to always positively affirm their employees and say, we're doing really great here, because it makes people feel positive, part of the team, and wanting to go forward. So these are just a few suggestions about affirmations. Now here's another few suggestions that I'm going to expand on in the next few minutes about how to take charge of your corporate life. 1, don't pretend to be someone you're not. 2, don't be intimidated. 3, don't feel pressured. 4, build close relationships. 5, play to your strengths. 6, don't forget to recharge. Now here's a few words on what I just said. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. The last thing you want to do while starting on the corporate career ladder, or if you've been in your job for a while, is to pretend you're someone you're not. Being fake in major networking situations might help you do well in one-on-one interactions, but it can cause you major anxiety and prevent you from putting your best foot forward because you've essentially projected a false image of yourself that you're not comfortable with. Faking who you are means you can't showcase your true strengths. Keeping up with the facade and the image you have created will become an inevitable struggle, and this will drain you, and the end result could be burnout. Don't set yourself up for failure. Be honest with yourself and others about who you really are. Chances are your manager will notice your introverted strengths and see them as an asset they can use to the business's advantage. Pretending only means you're preventing yourself from being the best employee you can be. Next, don't be intimidated. Don't allow yourself to be intimidated by those who treat your introverted nature as an affliction or a weakness. It's essential to your professional and personal well-being that you never apologize for being introverted. Remain confident in who you are as an individual and as an employee. Not only will this lessen workplace stress, but others will notice and appreciate your confidence as you begin to show more self-respect and project a capable, confident image. Next, don't feel pressured. Many introverts have complained about the social expectations put on them at work and the amount of stress this causes them when they are unable or not willing to comply. The truth is that an introvert's social tank can quickly run empty. This occasionally means you may have to turn down drinks after work or a group lunch, but don't feel guilty doing so. Cut yourself some slack, do what you can when you can, and you'll be much happier. It's good to socialize at work and to be part of the group, but if this places too many demands on you, choose the occasions where you do this, and then you will feel happier with yourself. Also, another good piece of advice, build close-knit relationships. The office introvert is very rarely the most popular. If anything, they're probably the most well-known for being the mysterious ones on the team. Because of this, introverts are the least likely to engage in office gossip or hang around in big groups. Instead, concentrate on building close-knit friendships with friendly extroverts and other introverts in the office. There's bound to be a few who would enjoy your company as much as you'd enjoy theirs. Also, play to your strengths. Introverts are naturally good listeners, writers, researchers, and idea generators. They play an important role within the corporate world and are an invaluable part of the team. They can also be an excellent support system in any department. Use these strengths to your advantage to perform above and beyond expectations. If you do so, chances are you'll get noticed, but noticed on your own terms. And most importantly, don't forget to recharge. The key to success as an introvert in a corporation is to take any time you can get to recharge your batteries. Make time to get away from it all, even for a little while each day. It is essential to your well-being. Recharging is too important to overlook. Not doing so can have a noticeable effect on your behavior towards yourself and others. And it can also impact your work performance throughout the day. Even if you can only get away for 10 minutes at a time, do so. What you could do is hang out in the washroom for a few minutes. All introverts have done this at some point or other, so you're in good company. Step out of the office to get some fresh air. Go out for lunch or take a short walk. Come in early and relax at your desk to get mentally prepared for the workday. Read a book during your break. Look through a magazine. Let your mind unwind and feel relaxed. And don't underestimate the benefits of an early, peaceful commute that avoids the crazy morning rush. After some time, you'll begin to find other creative ways you can recharge throughout the day. The result will be a sense of relaxation. You'll begin to feel in charge. Being an introvert anywhere can be challenging, and the workplace is no exception. The good news is, the more you understand about your introversion, the more confident you will become in moving forward with it. However, it's worth remembering that introverts bring quite a few strengths to the workplace. Colleagues and managers of people with introvert tendencies need to understand and use the introverts' often hidden talents in an informed way. It's worth remembering that introverts think before they speak. While many extroverts will interrupt you when you're trying to say something because they can't wait for their turn to speak, introverts will take their time before speaking, quietly listening and reflecting in their head instead of thinking out loud. Here's an example. Joe McHugh, a vice president of executive services for the Edina, Minnesota office of Right Management Consultants, explains, colleagues and bosses need to realize that introverts often don't know what they think immediately, and that they need time to think things through before coming to a conclusion. It's critical, Joe stresses, that you circle back to introverts after they've had some time to consider things. Also, another good point to keep in mind, introverts don't encourage endless small talk. This is especially true when it comes to engaging with an exuberant extrovert, because let's be honest, office small talk is a drain. It will put any introvert out of his or her element. Unlike extroverts who are energized by such interactions, introverts are exhausted or bored by them. Introverts prefer much deeper conversations, ideally about philosophical ideas. It ultimately comes down to how a person receives or doesn't receive energy from his or her surroundings. So it's important for you to be comfortable knowing that you may need to just have periods of quiet time. Also, another good point, introverts don't crave a lot of attention or the limelight. The thing with introverts is that popularity contests aren't their thing. They do their best work on their own and don't really like attention. This is in stark contrast with what extroverts generally like. Extroverts tend to engage in boisterous, attention-seeking behaviors and demonstrate great enthusiasm and assertiveness in a bid to gain external recognition or reward. It's no wonder introverts can often be overlooked for leadership roles, even though they make the most thoughtful leaders when selected. Also, to keep in mind, introverts don't sit inert all day at their desk. Just because introverts like to be alone and don't like a lot of small talk or being in the limelight doesn't mean they are antisocial or loners. Introverts sit quietly, incubating new ideas and executing plans for success. They create brilliant works of art, they can launch startups, and even lead major corporations. They're happy to bring you along with them, just as long as you don't insist on introducing a noisy crowd into their world. And another surprising thing to consider, introverts don't patronize those they lead or supervise. The reason introverts do so well in leadership positions is because they thrive by listening carefully, even to suggestions from below. It is second nature for introverted bosses to listen, appreciate, and validate great ideas, and highly unlikely for them to treat those they lead condescendingly. Also, consider introverts generally don't evoke negative emotions in others. Studies suggest that extroverts feel more positive emotions than introverts, due in part to the former's larger networks. However, it turns out extroverts don't always cause other people to feel these same positive emotions. In fact, studies of work groups show that extroverts actually have slightly more difficult relations with teammates and elicit more negative emotions than others compared to introverts. Many extroverts, consequently, often start out with a higher status, but may lose it over time. Now, another good point, introverts don't mind networking as extroverts when necessary. Many introverts are friendly and sociable. They are just as comfortable networking as extroverts, because their low-key demeanor is far removed from being shy. As author Susan Cain has reported in her 2012 TED Talk entitled The Power of Introverts, she said, shyness is about fear of social judgment. Introversion is more about how do you respond to stimulation, including social stimulation. So there are many shy extroverts who are hesitant and self-conscious when dealing with new people, but they love going to big events. And there are also many sociable introverts who will easily strike up a conversation with people at parties or networking events until it's time to retire to their quieter, more laid-back, preferred environments. And here's another good point to keep in mind. Introverts don't stay silent on topics they're passionate about. The prevailing stereotype in many workplaces is that extroverts are charismatic and not shy of speaking, while introverts are shy and never speak up. The truth is, however, that introverts won't speak unless they have something important to say and are deeply passionate about a topic. Speaking is not an act of extroversion, observes Malcolm Gladwell, who is an extroverted writer who spends a lot of time on stage. It has nothing to do with extroversion. It's a performance, and many performers are hugely introverted. A certified speaking professional, Jennifer Conweiler, has reported at least half of people who speak for a living are introverted in nature. They succeed on stage, just not in the chit-chat afterwards. Now here's another interesting point. Introverts don't act rashly. Introverts have an attitude of observance, reflection, and caution. They don't act rashly. Instead, they pause before action and are characteristically sure and steady. This pause, often mistaken for hesitation, gives them time to study and analyze situations so that the actions taken make the most sense in the long run. In contrast, extroverts tend to be more spontaneous and respond immediately, adapting as necessary after engagement. Acting in haste is not necessarily bad, but it is often dangerous. Now here's another good point. Introverts don't support superficial office politics and gossip. There are many shallow people in our workplaces. These people knowingly or unknowingly prefer to keep things light and superficial. If you are not careful, you can easily get swept away by their endless chit-chat, politics, and gossip. Fortunately for introverts, they naturally don't enjoy meaningless small talk or empty chit-chat that has no real substance, and that doesn't go beyond the surface. Introverts just won't give gossip the time of day, and discussing other people's business with everyone truly isn't part of their makeup. So in essence, you may get more effective work time out of someone who's introverted because they're busy focused on the job and not busy just having, chit chat and gossip. Another good point, introverts don't feel bored when they're working long hours. Introverts have an impressive ability to focus deeply on one activity. They actually enjoy and thrive working long hours by themselves in environments that are quiet and peaceful. By contrast, extroverts dread being alone for extended periods of time and easily get bored doing one thing for too long. That being said, introverts are distracted and sometimes overwhelmed by crowds in loud, open office spaces. Here's another good point. Introverts don't mind taking on solo projects. While extroverts love working in groups or teams and dread solo projects, introverts work well on one-to-one relationships and are not naturally drawn to more creative, detail-oriented solo careers that allows them to dive in with few interruptions. Their ability to focus deeply on a subject and work long hours by themselves make introverts perfectly suited for certain professions, such as researchers, behind-the-scenes tech workers, in the field natural scientists, and writers. Also, introverts don't appreciate interruptions when working. Introverts don't like being interrupted until work is finished because it causes them to lose focus or thought on the current project. Besides, most interruption by friends requires a certain level of small talk that many introverts prefer to avoid. Introverts will actually screen phone calls and let calls go to voicemail so they can return them later when they have the time and energy to devote to the conversation. On the other hand, many extroverts secretly enjoy being interrupted occasionally by colleagues and friends after working on one thing for an extended period of time because it breaks the silence and dispels boredom. Here's another strong point about introverts. Introverts don't miss deadlines easily. That's because they're good at processing information and planning ahead. As long as goals and deadlines are understood, there's no need to hover over their shoulders and micromanage. You'll get the most out of an introverted employee by giving them clear expectations and a lot of space. And finally, introverts usually don't hate people or colleagues. Just because introverts are self-reflective and dislike being interrupted at work doesn't mean they don't like people. Far from it. They just tend to do their best work on their own terms, prefer a few good friends over many acquaintances, and need to be given airtime as they typically will not demand it. Once you give them that and understand that they are more reserved, you can establish a deep and fulfilling personal and professional relationship with them. And you want to be friends with introverts because, in a word, they are hardwired for excellence in whatever field of specialty they choose to work at. I truly hope that you have found some great takeaways from my thoughts today. If you want further information or want to talk to me about more ideas, contact me through my website, www.thepassionmotivator.com, or by email at coachcaroldavies@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, you can change your life at any time and become the success you want to be. I look forward to connecting with you next week when I'm presenting part 3 about how to be a happily successful introvert. Bye now.
Tune in every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern for Only the Best for You with Carol Davies on Global Voice Radio.